Hi, my name is David Rowan. I'm a master practitioner and trainer of modern applied psychology, a synthesis of NLP and hypnotherapy, and a field called psychobiology, which looks at the relationship between language and physiology. And for the past 24 years, I've helped people to pass exams, and quite often they get credits and distinctions. And there are two parts of being able to do this. The first part is showing people how to relax deeply. Now, I don't mean just how to kind of take it easy and chill out, read a book and watch TV. I mean deeply relax in terms of allowing all the muscle groups in your body to relax and allow your central nervous system to not be stimulated by external things. That kind of meditative, mindful relaxation is something that is easily attainable. One thing you can do, if you look at the caption beneath this video, you'll see there's a link to a deep relaxation that I've recorded, and it's $12.99 I think, and you can download it, and it takes 26 minutes to listen to it, and it teaches your unconscious how to relax in just mere seconds. And relaxation is important because it allows us to access the memory centers in our brain. You might have noticed, on people on TV quiz shows are asked very simple questions, and their brains freeze, and they're like a rabbit in headlights. I was actually watching one BBC quiz show, and this woman asked, "With what part of an egg do you make a meringue?" This guy went, "Bzz, the inside." Ha! Well, that if you were in a studio and there's 400 people there, and boom microphones, someone dabbing your face with makeup, 8 million people watching you live right now, there's a chance that your brain will kind of freeze up with the pressure. So when we become anxious, our brains find it hard to access memory. So relaxation is an integral part of the process of being able to access memories. But there's another dynamic as well. A chap called Rossi proposed what he called state-dependent memory. Now, state-dependent memory theory has this notion that when a human brain receives new information, the new information is encoded in the state that the person is in at the time they receive the information. So as an example, we shift consciousness naturally, most of the days in our lives. We go from being asleep to awake. That's a big shift in consciousness. Happy to sad, back to happy, shuffling backwards and forth. One extreme shift in consciousness is from being sober to being blind drunk. They're quite different from each other. And if someone was blind drunk and you gave them brand new information they'd never heard before, when they're sober, they can't remember it, because the drunk state is so different to the sober state that they can't access it. But if they got drunk to the same extent again, then they would be able to access the information. So if a person, for example, is in a classroom, you get a bunch of kids in a classroom, and you give them new information when they're in a state of boredom, really, and disinterest. If kids are given information in a state of disinterest and boredom, and then you put them into another room, a while later, in a state of hyperanxiety and pressure, hyperanxiety and pressure are so different to boredom and disinterest. There's a very high chance they won't be able to access the information, because the two states are very different, just like being drunk and being sober. So I found a way of being able to create a bridge from input to output. There's a phenomenon that's described as the Mozart effect. And I know there's disagreements about how this works, but as far as I can understand it, at the moment, for example, you're not listening to my voice. You're listening, or you're paying attention to your brain's interpretation of what it believes my voice sounds like. So I'm vibrating the air, which is vibrating a diaphragm in an object. That's being transduced into an electrical impulse, which is then being transduced into a fiber optic signal, which is bouncing off a satellite, going back down into your region of the earth, down through fiber optic cables, copper cables, into another diaphragm, and then it's vibrating the air, and the air vibration, whether from a speaker or a headphone, is then touching your inner eardrum, and then your brain is saying signal coming in, and it recreates with its mirror neurons the sound of my voice and what it believes my voice sounds like. So you're not listening to me directly as such, you're paying attention to your brain's representation of the sound of my voice. And your brain does that with every sound that you hear. So the mirror neurons in our brain, their function is to replicate the outside world. Now, what's been found is if you get some children and you put them in a room and play Elvis Presley, there is absolutely no difference in their cognitive performance. The latest hip-hop rappers, they don't have any effect. Beethoven, that doesn't have any effect. Play Mozart and their IQ performance goes up. I mean, this was so well documented. There was even a feature on Newsnight, and Jeremy Paxman was intrigued. So, you know, that's not necessarily the best gold star mark, but it does point to something when a cynical person, or apparently cynical person, can find there's something in it. So, what I intend to get people to do is just prior to a study period at home, play the relaxation. So for half an hour, just allow your nervous system to relax, and then after the relaxation, immediately begin to read the information that you require. At the same time, have a certain piece of Mozart playing in the background, and it must be audio wallpaper, far into the background. And the piece that seems to be most conducive and to being able to enable the brain to have a higher IQ performance is Ein-Klein Nachtmusik. Now, I can only assume that there must be something in the harmonics and the dynamics of Mozart's music that when our ears have that information coming in, the synaptic pathways in our brain have to literally convert themselves into a Mozart shape in order to be able to carry the sound. So, in other words, when we watch a favourite soap opera, in the moment that we're watching the soap opera, our brains replicate the sounds that we're hearing. You know, if you play Motorhead, you're actually thinking like Lemmy in that moment. So this sound can enable certain synaptic pathways in your brain to open, and that means then that at the same time your IQ performance goes up. So if you're relaxed and then the information comes in, and you put this sound with it way in the background so it doesn't catch your attention, it becomes part of the dynamic of the input of the music, and your IQ is operating at a higher level as well. And it sounds like this. I'm sure you're familiar with this. So, Ein-Klein Nachtmusik, yes. And if that's like audio wallpaper, not enough to catch your conscious attention, but way in the background, then when you're actually studying, the information becomes encoded with that sound as well. Now, if on the way to an exam room, you then play that music in the iPod or in the car or on your phone, that will also put your brain into the same state that it was in when the information came in. Aha! And it creates a bridge from input to output. If in the process of an exam, you find that there's a question you can't answer and your mind freezes, rather than struggling to think, I should know this, what is this, and getting into that kind of groove, instead of that, just hum the music. And in doing that, it takes your brain into the state that it was in when the information came in. It doesn't guarantee that you'll remember, but it can help to open the memory channels. Now, so can being relaxed. The relaxation, the clip of which, the link that I'm going to put underneath here, has a coaching process in the middle of it that teaches your unconscious how to re-access being relaxed, but literally in seconds. And that's a little mental exercise that you can do while you're in an exam room. Another thing you can do is let one or both hands go loose and floppy by your side. And that physiology of the hand being relaxed tells your brain that things are calm. And that can also assist in reducing the amount of anxiety in your physiology. Now, there's something else that one can do in order to be able to receive information quickly. And it's a technique called photo reading, which was described by a guy called Paul Shaler. And essentially, it's this. The easiest way to learn information, of course, is to learn something that you already know. So, by making information familiar to your brain first, It then means that when you come to read it, or when you come to study it, you're reading stuff that kind of somehow seems already familiar, and it goes in more deeply. When I did my last master's degree, we heard a phrase which I thought was brilliant in this lecture. New information is apprehended before it's comprehended. New information is apprehended before it's comprehended. So this technique I'm just about to describe enables you to apprehend the information quickly. Therefore, that means comprehending it will be a faster process. So get a book that you haven't read before, that's your chosen topic. Now, do you remember very early photography, like if you look at, Edwardian photography, they had these big box cameras on tripods, and the chap would put a kind of a black cloth over his head, and put in this great big kind of metal kind of plate with a photographic film in it, and put that inside the camera, box camera. So just imagine that before you're going to read a book, you get your book, and step one is to peruse the book casually, right? And it's very important that you do this in the sequence of the book. A lot of people pick up a book and they get kind of familiar with it by flicking it, and they flick from back to front. That's the reverse sequence of information. So in order to get the information to go in clearly, you need the correct sequence of information. So that's going from the first page to the back, not from the back to the front. Okay? So put the book in front of you and just, turn the pages like this and casually, all right, there's a heading, there's a diagram, there's a thing. And what your brain's doing is just sort of becoming familiar with the territory of the landscape of the information, how it's presented, the font, the typeface, and so forth. And not particularly getting stuck and absorbing anything, not kind of going, oh, that's interesting, but just, all the way to the kind of the end. So you've had a casual peruse of the information. Then the next step. The next step is more hypnotic. First of all, begin to relax your breathing, breathe slowly, and just imagine that there's a photographic plate above the back of your head, about 4 inches away from the crown, back here. And just imagine that what you're about to look at is going to be projected onto the back of that plate. And you give it a context, and this is very important. Complete this sentence. I want this information because. Okay, so I want this information because. And then begin to chant to yourself, relax, 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 relax at that speed. And while you're saying relax to yourself at that speed, with the book, you turn the pages one at a time rapidly, literally so quickly that you catch the sight of the page, the totality in your vision, but without actually focusing on anything. So that kind of half asleep, sort of tunnel vision, peripheral vision, not really paying attention kind of view. So you go psh, like that, quickly, all the way down. Relax, relax, relax. And then when you're done, put the book to one side, get up, get a drink, glass of water, something like that. And you'll find that when you next come to actually look at the book and begin to read it, that it's very familiar. Some people find that even just doing that part of it, when they need to find a reference or a particular chapter, they can go straight to it and they know exactly where the information is. It seems as if this technique kind of chucks it into the back of your head, which is very, very useful indeed. And I do have 2 master's degrees, which I'm very grateful for having. And I did them without any prior education whatsoever at all. No A-levels, I've never done a BA or degree. I just went straight into a master's degree from a standing start. Did lectures and read for a year, then wrote a dissertation along with another 4 other papers, and I got a distinction for the dissertation. And then a few years later, I did a Master of Science degree, and I got a distinction for the degree overall, which is absolutely brilliant. And I found myself reading books on affective neuroscience without any biology background, without any science background, writing papers on brain maturation, and enabling myself to do this using this very brilliant passing exams technique and the photo reading technique as well. So I hope this gives you some hints and tips on how to study well. Relax beforehand. Play Einstein Nachtmusik in the background. If you have brand new information, do the photo reading first, and then just enjoy reading the new information while you have Mozart playing in the background. When you're in an exam situation or a situation where you have to recall what you've taken in, just hum the melody of the Mozart in your mind if you need a bit of assistance, and you'll find that your memory systems will flow more easily. The chap who taught me modern applied psychology, when he was 81 years old, created a disabled sailing club in his local Devonshire village, and passed his part 1 of being a skipper, because he had to become a qualified skipper to be able to run the disabled sailing club. So he passed his part 1 very well. When he did his part 2, there was a theory element, because he had to calculate tides going across the English Channel and things like this. He passed the practical, failed the theory, and he was very upset for having done this. So I went to see him, and I found a rather dejected Michael, and so I helped him kind of talk about it, and I told him about what I've been doing with people. And I said, well, do you want to give it a try? He said, okay. So I sent him a relaxation thing, and the Mozart on a CD, just to save him looking around for it. Gave him the instructions of what to do. He took a retest and got 98%. So that was a very dramatic change in his ability to do that. So I hope you find that this is useful for you, and enjoy reading and studying. Thank you very much for your time. And if you want to have a look at a bit more of this, you can look at my larger website, www.davidrowan.co.uk, or a new website that's coming into fruition soon, which is map.institute. So take very good care, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.